Hey guys, tonight we begin with the extraordinary journey into the life of a figure whose name still echoes through history, Gaius Julius Caesar. We will step into his sandals, navigate the treacherous political landscapes of Rome, command legions in distant lands, and ultimately face the Ides of March, discovering the man behind the myth. So, before you become Julius Caesar, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy our content. And let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. It's always a joy to see how many people from all over the world are ready for this journey. Now, dim the lights, close your eyes, feel your body deeply relax, leaving the day behind. Forget who you are right now and let's begin your new life as Julius Caesar tonight. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the bustling heart of Republican Rome, 100 BCE. The good news, you're a patrician. The bad news, Rome is a viper's nest of political intrigue and your family's fortunes are wavering. Your home, a modest but respectable Roman domus, feels cool against the morning heat. The mosaic floor is intricate underfoot. There's no electric light, no constant hum of devices, just the distant chatter of servants and the gentle clinking of bronze. The air carries a blend of baking bread, olive oil, and the faint, ever-present scent of the city's lively streets. You blink awake as the first rays of dawn filter through a small window, painting the frescoed walls in soft hues. It's the ancient Roman version of an alarm clock, only more natural and far less jarring. Your domus, though not as grand as some, is a haven of order amidst the city's chaos. One large atrium open to the sky lets in the light and sounds. Your family, household slaves, and few close clients share this space, a constant low murmur of life. The smells, they're a symphony of daily Roman existence. Fresh fruit, burning incense, and the subtle, earthy aroma of the unpaved streets outside. Scented candles haven't been invented as we know them, and even if they were, they'd be quickly overwhelmed by the vibrant life of the city. You try to stretch, but immediately regret it as your muscles ache from a night spent on a simple yet comfortable bed. You're a young Roman noble, perhaps 15 or 16 years old, eager to make your mark. Your back, though young, already feels the slight tension of a life destined for ambition, and your knees, soon to carry you across empires, are firm and ready. The political tides of Rome, ever shifting, soon turned violent, and you, barely a man in your late teens, found yourself caught in their treacherous currents. The formidable dictator Sulla cast his long shadow across your family, especially because your aunt Julia was the wife of his bitter enemy, Gaius Marius. This lineage, this deep-seated connection to a rival faction, marked you. Sulla, in his ruthless quest for absolute power, unleashed his infamous prescriptions, chilling lists of enemies destined for execution, their properties seized, their families ruined. For a time, your name, young as it was whispered among those marked, a stark, cold reminder of just how precarious life could be. Even for a patrician of Rome, you felt the raw, primal fear of a cornered animal, a deep instinct for survival stirring within your youthful heart. Forced to flee Rome, you embarked on your first great journey away from the familiar cobblestones and crowded markets, seeking refuge in the distant east. This wasn't a grand military campaign, not yet a testament to your future command. Instead, it was a profound period of learning and observation serving in the Roman army in the far-flung provinces of Asia and Cilicia. Here, amidst the sun-baked landscapes and the quiet discipline of military camps, you honed your soldiering skills, absorbing the intricate dance of legionary life, the unwavering camaraderie forged in shared hardships. It was during the siege of Mytilene that you first truly distinguished yourself, earning the Corona Civica Sau, the civic crown, a simple yet profoundly honorable wreath of oak leaves, for your bravery in saving a fellow Roman citizen's life. This early recognition, a quiet affirmation of your courage and burgeoning potential, was your very first taste of public honor, a whisper of the immense glory that would one day define your name. Years blurred into a cycle of military drills, dusty roads, and the quiet contemplation of a future far from home. Then, the momentous news arrived. Sulla was dead. The iron grip that had strangled Rome had finally loosened. A cautious sigh of relief swept across the Republic, and the path home, once fraught with mortal peril, was clear. You sailed back to a city still bearing the scars of civil war, but breathing a cautious sigh of relief awaiting your return. It was your Rome, and it beckoned your ambition. You plunged into the tumultuous world of Roman law and politics with an almost feverish energy. Your voice, now maturing, clear, and commanding, found its natural stage in the bustling Roman Forum. You quickly became a skilled orator, captivating crowds and challenging established figures with your eloquent arguments. Each passionate speech, each meticulously crafted legal argument, was not merely a performance, but a deliberate step up, the cursus honorum, the revered ladder of Roman public office. We might call it a career path today, but then it was the very essence of a Roman noble's life, a demanding sequential progression from military service to the various magistracies, all leading to the ultimate coveted goal, the consulship. Your first significant elected position was as a military tribune, followed by your appointment as a quaestor in Hispania. This marked your true introduction to public administration, overseeing provincial finances and grappling with the complex realities of governing distant territories. You journeyed through these lands, observing the daily lives of those far removed from Rome's opulent grandeur, witnessing the struggles of the common people and feeling the tangible weight of taxation. These experiences, though seemingly minor in the grand sweep of history, profoundly shaped your understanding of the vast empire you would one day command. They also laid bare the systemic inequalities, the vast chasm between the privileged elite and the ordinary citizen, sparking a quiet, unyielding resolve within you to bring about meaningful change. Life, however, was not all public triumphs and political ascent. Personal tragedy struck with the untimely death of your beloved wife, Cornelia. The silence in your domus, once filled with her gentle presence, was a profound and aching loss, a private sorrow carried amidst public ambition. Yet, as a Roman noble, duty often superseded personal grief, and the political landscape demanded alliances. You soon remarried, taking Pompeia as your wife, a union that further cemented crucial connections within the powerful aristocratic families of Rome. Each personal bond, each strategic marriage, was another intricate thread woven into the complex, ever-shifting tapestry of Roman politics. Your ascent continued with unwavering momentum. As an aedile, a city magistrate, you were entrusted with the vital responsibilities of public buildings, regulating the bustling markets, and, most notably, organizing the public games. This was your golden opportunity to capture the hearts and minds of the Roman populace, to cultivate immense popular support. You spent lavishly, often incurring significant personal debt, to stage magnificent gladiatorial contests, enthralling theatrical performances, and grand public feasts. Imagine the thunderous roar of the crowd, the vibrant clash of colors, the sheer, breathtaking spectacle. The very air would be thick with anticipation, the rich scent of roasting meats, and the murmurs of awe from citizens who craved such diversions. These events, though financially draining, were not mere entertainments. They were shrewd investments in your political future, indelibly etching your name into the minds of the people as a generous, capable, and profoundly ambitious leader. Your ambition, however, knew no true limits. You set your sights on the highly prestigious office of Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest of Rome. This was far more than a purely religious role. It was a position of immense political power, granting unparalleled influence and profound social prestige. The election was fiercely contested, a battle of wills and connections, but your popular support, meticulously cultivated through years of dedicated public service and those unforgettable lavish games, ultimately carried you to a resounding victory. By your late 20s, you had become an undeniably prominent figure in Rome, a man with a rapidly growing reputation, immense popular appeal, and an unyielding will to shape not only your own destiny, but the very future of the Republic itself. Every single step, from the military camps of Asia to the bustling Roman Forum, was a deliberate, calculated move, a carefully laid stone on the inexorable path to unimaginable power and influence. After your meteoric rise through the cursus honorum, after winning the hearts of the Roman people with your lavish games and securing the prestigious office of Pontifex Maximus, you stood on the precipice of true power. But Rome, as you knew, was a city of ancient traditions, where the Senate, composed of conservative aristocrats, held immense sway, often thwarting the ambitions of rising stars. To truly ascend, to break through the rigid old guard, you realized a new kind of alliance was necessary. And so, in a move that would reshape the very fabric of the Republic, you forged what historians would later call the First Triumvirate. This was not a formal, legally recognized body, but a secret political alliance and understanding, a pact born of mutual ambition and necessity. Your partners in this grand design were two of Rome's most formidable figures, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, or Pompey the Great, a brilliant general with vast military prestige and legions of loyal veterans, and Marcus Licinius Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome, his fortune built on ruthless business dealings and a vast network of clients and debtors. Imagine the hushed meetings, the subtle negotiations, the intricate dance of personalities and power. You, with your burgeoning popularity and sharp political mind, needed Pompey's military might and Crassus's boundless wealth. Pompey, for his part, needed political leverage to secure land for his veterans and have his eastern settlements ratified by a resistant Senate. Crassus sought to advance his financial interests and influence. It was a calculated risk, a delicate balance of three colossal egos, each seeing the others as tools to achieve their own ultimate ends. This alliance, though hidden from public view at first, was an undeniable force, an unstoppable current against the old, stagnant waters of the Senate. With the formidable backing of Pompey and Crassus, your path to the consulship, the highest office in the Republic, became clear. In 59 BCE, you were elected consul, alongside Marcus Calpurnius Bibulus, a staunch conservative who stood as a symbol of the very opposition you sought to overcome. Your consulship was a whirlwind, a masterclass in political maneuvering, and at times outright intimidation. You moved swiftly to enact your agenda, most notably a sweeping agrarian law designed to distribute public lands to Rome's poorest citizens, and crucially to Pompey's veterans. Picture the Senate House, the Curia, a place of ancient gravitas, now a cauldron of fervent debate. Your proposals were met with fierce resistance from the Optimates, the conservative faction who saw your reforms as an assault on their privileges and a dangerous pandering to the masses. Bibulus, your co-consul, tried every legal and religious maneuver to obstruct you, even attempting to declare every day of your consulship a religious holiday, thereby halting public business. But you, with the popular assemblies at your command and the subtle, sometimes not so subtle pressure from Pompey's veterans, simply pushed through your legislation. It was during this time that you solidified another crucial alliance, not one of power, but of family. After the death of your second wife, Pompeia, you married Calpurnia, the daughter of Lucius Calpurnius Piso Caesoninus, a prominent senator who would become your co-consul in the following year. These marriages, these seemingly personal unions, were always intricately woven into the grand tapestry of Roman politics, strengthening bonds, securing loyalties, and extending your reach. The quiet comfort of your new domus, the soft rustle of Calpurnia's silk garments, offered a brief respite from the relentless political battles, a private corner in a public life. As your consulship drew to a close, the question of your next command loomed large. A proconsulship, a governorship of a province, was traditionally a path to military glory and wealth, but the Senate, wary of your immense popularity and power, sought to send you to a relatively insignificant province. Yet, with the combined influence of the triumvirate, you once again outmaneuvered your opponents. Through shrewd negotiation and popular decree, you secured an unprecedented 5-year term as proconsul of Cisalpine Gaul and Illyricum, and later, Transalpine Gaul. This was it. This was your ticket, your grand stage beyond the confines of Rome. Gaul, a vast, untamed territory to the north, teeming with diverse and often warring Celtic tribes, was ripe for conquest and administration. It was a land that offered not just military command, but the opportunity to raise and train your own legions, to accumulate immense wealth through conquest, and to carve out a legacy entirely separate from the cutthroat politics of the city. Reflect for a moment on the ambition, the sheer audacity of these moves. To wield power in Rome was to navigate a labyrinth of ancient laws, personal loyalties, and shifting alliances. You had mastered this intricate dance, bending the rules, breaking traditions, and forging new paths. The first triumvirate was a testament to your strategic genius, a calculated gamble that paid off handsomely. You understood that true power in Rome wasn't just inherited, it was meticulously constructed, brick by brick, alliance by alliance, reform by reform. As you prepared to depart Rome for your provinces, leaving the intricate political web behind, a new chapter began. The sounds of the forum, the debates in the Senate, the murmurs of the crowds, they would fade, replaced by the rustle of leaves in distant forests, the clang of Roman steel, and the unknown challenges of a strange, wild land. Your vision for a new Rome, a Rome shaped by your will, was about to be forged not in the marble halls of the capital, but in the muddy fields and fierce battles of Gaul. The stage was set, and the legions awaited their commander, ready to follow you into the vast, unknown expanse of barbarian lands. Your journey had taken you from a patrician child in Rome to a military commander on the cusp of empire building. The political battles were behind you for now. Ahead lay the conquest that would cement your legend, the political machinations of Rome, now a fading memory. You stood at the threshold of a new world, a land known to the Romans as Gaul. This vast territory stretched beyond the Alps, a wild, untamed expanse of dense forests, winding rivers, and rolling hills, a stark contrast to the ordered chaos of the Eternal City. It was a land of mystery and opportunity, inhabited by numerous Celtic tribes, each with its own customs, rivalries, and formidable warriors. Your new command, the proconsulship of Cisalpine Gaul, Illyricum, and later Transalpine Gaul, wasn't just a political appointment. It was an invitation to forge your own destiny, to carve out an empire, and to amass the glory and wealth necessary for your continued ascent. Imagine the crisp, cool air as you first crossed the rugged Alpine passes, leaving the familiar warmth of Italy behind. The sounds of Rome's bustling streets were replaced by the rustle of leaves in ancient forests, the distant calls of unfamiliar birds, and the rhythmic march of your legions. Ahead lay a world waiting to be explored, a land both beautiful and dangerous. As you led your army deeper into Gaul, you became intimately familiar with its diverse landscapes. Lush valleys gave way to towering mountain ranges. Broad rivers carved through fertile plains, and impenetrable forests stretched for miles, harboring hidden dangers and unknown peoples. Your legions, those disciplined and loyal soldiers, became your extended family. You understood their needs, their fears, and their unwavering courage. A Roman legion was a marvel of organization, a self-contained city on the move. Each legion, comprised of around 5,000 heavily armed and meticulously trained men, moved with precision. Picture the heavy thud of their hobnailed boots on the forest floor, the glint of sun on their polished bronze helmets and shields, the quiet murmur of Latin commands echoing through the air. You would ride among them, a constant presence, sharing their hardships, eating their simple rations of bread, cheese, and sometimes salted pork, feeling the same biting cold of a Gallic winter night. The shared experience forged an unbreakable bond, a loyalty that would prove more valuable than any political alliance back in Rome. Your initial campaigns in Gaul were a complex dance of diplomacy and decisive military action. The various Celtic tribes were not a unified force, they were a patchwork of independent kingdoms, often at odds with each other. This disunity was both a challenge and an opportunity. You spent countless hours, often late into the night, by the flickering light of a campaign lamp, poring over maps, listening to scouts, and receiving envoys from nervous tribal leaders. You learned to distinguish between the Aedui, who sought Roman protection against their aggressive neighbors, the Sequani and the Arverni, and the Helvetii, a large migrating tribe whose movement threatened the fragile peace of the Roman province. One of your first major challenges arrived with the Helvetii. This entire tribe, numbering hundreds of thousands, decided to migrate across Roman territory. This mass movement, a river of people and livestock, would have destabilized the entire region. You acted swiftly. Imagine the urgent messages arriving in your camp, the sudden need for strategic decisions. With your legions, you quickly constructed a defensive line along the Rhone River, a formidable barrier of earthworks and watchtowers, designed to block their passage. When diplomacy failed, when their sheer numbers threatened to overwhelm your defenses, you met them in open battle. The clash of steel, the shouts of warriors, the disciplined lines of your Roman legionaries holding firm against the wild charges of the Helvetii, these were the sounds and sights of early conquest. The victory was hard-won but decisive, establishing your military prowess and the unwavering strength of Rome. The landscape itself was a formidable adversary. Unlike the well-trodden roads of Italy, Gaul was wild, crisscrossed by muddy tracks and dense forests. Rivers, often swollen and treacherous, had to be bridged or forded. The Roman army, with its engineers and surveyors, was a master of logistics. You would direct the construction of temporary bridges, the clearing of paths, the establishment of supply lines that stretched for hundreds of miles back to your bases. The simple act of marching, day after day, through unfamiliar territory, in all weathers, was a testament to Roman endurance. You learned to read the land, to understand its rhythms, to use its features to your tactical advantage. Later, driven by persistent incursions from Germanic tribes across the Rhine, you made the audacious decision to cross this mighty river, a boundary that had long separated the Roman world from the barbarian lands. This was an act of pure strategic brilliance and engineering marvel. Your engineers, under your direct supervision, constructed a massive wooden bridge across the wide, fast-flowing river in just 10 days. Imagine the constant hammering, the shouts of the engineers, the sheer physical effort involved in felling trees, shaping timbers, and driving pilings deep into the riverbed, all under the watchful eyes of your legions. You marched your army across, a clear demonstration of Roman power and a warning to any who dared to threaten your conquests. After a brief but impactful campaign, you returned, destroying the bridge behind you, leaving an indelible mark on the Germanic tribes. And then there was Britain, the island shrouded in mists, a land of legend and mystery to most Romans beckoned. In the summers of 55 and 54 BCE, you launched 2 daring expeditions across the tempestuous waters of the English Channel. Picture the vast fleet of Roman transports, packed with legionaries and cavalry, navigating the unpredictable currents and tides. The unfamiliar sight of the white cliffs rising majestically from the sea. These were reconnaissance missions, as much as conquests designed to gather intelligence, to deter British tribes from aiding their Gallic counterparts, and to, undoubtedly, add to your growing legend. You encountered fierce resistance from the native Britons, with their chariots and painted warriors, but your legions, though tested, always prevailed. You may not have fully conquered Britain on these early forays, but you had planted the Roman eagle on its shores, forever changing its destiny and adding another remarkable feat to your burgeoning reputation. The life of a Roman commander in Gaul was a relentless cycle of strategic planning, diplomatic negotiations, and the constant vigilance of leading an army in a hostile land. There were no comfortable villas here, no elaborate feasts, only the rough and ready existence of the military camp. You would rise with the sun, review your troops, oversee drills, and attend to the endless flow of reports from your legates and centurions. Decisions, large and small, fell to you. Where to march, when to attack, how to secure supplies, how to deal with captured tribesmen. Each day brought new challenges, new landscapes, and new opportunities to prove your leadership. You learned to adapt, to innovate, and to inspire a level of devotion from your men that few commanders could ever hope to achieve. This was more than just war. It was an education in leadership, in human nature, and in the raw, unyielding power of an organized force. Gaul was becoming your crucible, shaping you into the legendary figure you were destined to be. You had not just commanded legions, you had lived among them, led them, and through them, you began to command a vast and untamed world. The initial triumphs in Gaul, the daring crossings of the Rhine and into Britain, had solidified your reputation as a military genius. Yet, the subjugation of such a vast and diverse territory was never a simple matter. Beneath the veneer of Roman control, a powerful undercurrent of resistance simmered, ready to erupt. The Celtic spirit, though fractured by tribal rivalries, remained fierce and unyielding, particularly when faced with the permanent presence of a foreign power. It was in the harsh winter of 54-53 BCE that this simmering discontent boiled over into a series of major Gallic rebellions. The spark was ignited by Ambiorix, leader of the Eburones, who orchestrated a devastating ambush against a Roman legion and 5 cohorts, nearly annihilating them. This bold act resonated across Gaul, feeding the hopes of those who longed for freedom. The rebellion spread like wildfire, a network of tribes rising in coordinated defiance against your legions. Suddenly, the seemingly pacified provinces were alive with unrest, and your strategic brilliance was put to its ultimate test. Imagine the bitter cold of a Gallic winter, the snow muffling the sounds of the distant mounting threat. You, a commander far from home, now faced not individual skirmishes, but a widespread insurgency. The quiet rhythm of camp life was broken by urgent dispatches, intelligence reports detailing new uprisings, and the constant need to adapt your strategy. It was a war of nerves as much as of swords, requiring immense patience and iron resolve. The defining moment of these rebellions, however, came with the emergence of a unified Gallic leader, Vercingetorix, a chieftain of the Arverni tribe. Vercingetorix possessed an extraordinary charisma and tactical acumen. He managed to do what no one had done before: unite a vast confederation of Gallic tribes under a single banner, rallying them with promises of driving the Romans from their land forever. His strategy was a clever one, aimed at denying your legion's supplies, forcing you to fight on his terms, and exploiting your logistical vulnerabilities. We now find ourselves in the late summer of 52 BCE, at the climactic point of the struggle, the siege of Alesia. Vercingetorix, with his massive Gallic army, chose to make his stand in the formidable hill fort of Alesia. This wasn't merely a fortified town, it was a natural stronghold perched atop a plateau surrounded by rivers and steep valleys, seemingly impregnable. Your decision, in the face of such a formidable enemy and a unified Gaul, was audacious to the point of seeming impossible. You would besiege Alesia, but not just that, you would conduct a double siege. Picture the scene. The vast Gallic army inside the hill fort, and then a second, even larger Gallic relief army, numbering perhaps 250,000 warriors, gathering to attack your legions from the outside. You were about to become the besieged and the besieger simultaneously. This was where Roman engineering and your relentless drive truly shone. You ordered the construction of 2 massive circumvallations. First, a vast inner ring of fortifications, stretching for 10 miles, meticulously built around Alesia to trap Vercingetorix and his forces. Then, an even larger outer ring, nearly 14 miles long, facing outwards, designed to protect your legions from the approaching Gallic relief army. The construction was an epic endeavor. Day after day, under your watchful eye, thousands of Roman legionaries and auxiliaries transformed the landscape. They dug parallel trenches, each several feet deep and wide, one of which was flooded with water from diverted streams, creating formidable obstacles. Behind these, they erected a rampart, towering some 12 feet high, topped with a sturdy palisade of sharpened logs and interspersed with watchtowers. Ahead of these main defenses, they scattered a terrifying array of hidden traps, sharpened stakes camouflaged in pits designed to impale attackers, and iron caltrops scattered across the ground to cripple any charging warrior. The rhythmic clang of hammers, the rasp of saws, the steady thud of shovels biting into the earth, and the low guttural chants of men as they hauled timber. These were the constant sounds of your industrious army, a testament to their unwavering discipline and your visionary leadership. The very ground seemed to thrum with this monumental effort, a silent promise of Roman might. You were a constant presence along these lines, your figure familiar to every soldier. You walked the length of the fortifications, inspecting every detail, your gaze missing nothing. You spoke with your centurions, listened to reports from your engineers, and offered quiet encouragement to the weary men. You felt the chill of the early morning air, the biting wind whipping across the newly dug earthworks, the dampness of the soil beneath your worn leather boots. You shared their simple meals, the hard biscuit and dried meat, the rough wine, understanding the shared sacrifice. This personal involvement, this unwavering commitment to their collective well-being and the success of the mission forged an almost unbreakable bond between you and your legions. They were more than just soldiers. They were your extended family, a brotherhood hardened by shared peril and bound by a common, ambitious purpose. The days and nights blurred into a cycle of intense vigilance and fierce engagement. Inside Alesia, Vercingetorix's forces began to feel the cruel grip of starvation, their supplies dwindling. Outside, your legions endured the relentless pressure of the massive Gallic relief army, fighting a war on 2 fronts, defending the inner and outer walls simultaneously. The tension was palpable, a heavy weight that settled over the entire battlefield. The stakes were immeasurably high. The fate of Gaul, and indeed your own future in Rome, hung precariously in the balance. There were moments of desperate, brutal hand-to-hand combat along the ramparts, the clash of swords and shields ringing out, the roar of battle cries echoing across the valleys. Yet, through it all, your Roman discipline held firm. Your leadership, calm and decisive even in the direst moments, inspired unwavering loyalty, a quiet confidence that permeated through the ranks. Finally, after weeks of relentless fighting and desperate attacks by the Gallic relief force, your legions, though outnumbered, delivered a decisive blow. The Gallic relief army, broken and demoralized, dispersed, trapped, and with no hope of rescue. Vercingetorix, in an act of immense courage and self-sacrifice, surrendered himself to you, hoping to spare his people further suffering. The subjugation of Gaul was complete. The sheer scale of this victory was unprecedented. You had conquered a territory larger than Italy, brought immense wealth and plunder and slaves back to Rome, and added an entire new province to the Republic. The Gallic Wars, spanning nearly a decade, were a testament to your unparalleled military genius, your logistical prowess, and your extraordinary ability to inspire and lead men. The lasting impact on Gaul was profound. While the immediate cost was immense in terms of lives and destruction, Romanization would slowly take root. New roads were built, Roman law and administration were introduced, and cities began to flourish. Gaul, once a fragmented collection of warring tribes, would eventually become a vital and prosperous part of the Roman Empire, a legacy directly attributable to your relentless campaigns. As you stood amidst the ruins of Alesia, the shouts of victory still echoing, you might have reflected on the long, arduous nature of campaigning, the years spent away from Rome, the countless battles, the lives lost, both Roman and Gallic. You saw the land transformed, not just by Roman forts and roads, but by the very presence of your will. This was where your legend was truly forged, where the boy who fled Sulla became the conqueror of Gaul, a commander whose name would be spoken in awe for centuries to come. The wealth and glory were undeniable, but so too was the human cost, a quiet, melancholic understanding of the immense burden of command. Your bond with your legions, however, remained an unshakable force, a testament to shared triumphs and tribulations, preparing you for the even greater challenges that lay ahead in Rome itself. After the conquest of Gaul, you stood at the zenith of your military career. The wild lands beyond the Alps were now, more or less, Roman. You had brought glory, wealth, and immense prestige to yourself and to Rome. Your legions revered you, and your name was on the lips of every citizen, from the bustling forum to the furthest corners of the Republic. Yet, even as the echoes of Gallic victories still resonated, a different kind of storm was brewing back in the heart of Rome. The intricate web of alliances that had once propelled you to power, the first triumvirate, had unraveled. Crassus, your wealthy partner, had met his end in a disastrous campaign in Parthia, and Pompey, once your son-in-law and closest ally, had drifted back into the embrace of the Senate, his fears of your burgeoning power eclipsing your shared history. The conservative faction in the Senate, the Optimates, led by figures like Cato the Younger, had long viewed you with suspicion and alarm. Your populist reforms, your immense popularity, and above all, your command of loyal legions in Gaul, represented an existential threat to their traditional aristocratic order. They saw not a victorious general, but a dangerous demagogue, a man who dared to challenge the very foundations of the Republic. The whispers of your ambition grew louder, fueled by a mixture of genuine concern for the Republic and personal envy. The political maneuvering intensified, becoming a suffocating blanket of accusations and counter-accusations. Imagine the stream of dispatches arriving from Rome, carried by swift riders across the Alps. Each message, perhaps read by the flickering light of a campaign tent late at night, brought news of escalating tensions. The Senate, manipulated by your enemies, sought to strip you of your command, ordering you to disband your legions and return to Rome as a private citizen. This was a trap, a clear attempt to leave you vulnerable to prosecution by your political adversaries, to dismantle everything you had painstakingly built, to return without your legions, without the legal protection of your proconsular imperium, was to invite ruin, perhaps even death. You found yourself caught in an agonizing moral dilemma, a choice that would echo through the annals of history. On one side lay the sacred traditions of the Republic, the laws and customs that had governed Rome for centuries. To cross the Rubicon, a small, insignificant river marking the boundary between your province of Cisalpine Gaul and Italy proper, with your legions, was an act of open rebellion, a declaration of war against the very state you had sworn to serve. It was an unthinkable step, a transgression against the established order. On the other side lay your personal survival, the loyalty of your men, and your vision for a new Rome, one free from the stifling grip of a corrupt and entrenched aristocracy. Picture yourself on the banks of that small river, the Rubicon, in the quiet, moonlit hours of January 10th, 49th BCE. The water, shallow and unremarkable, seemed to hold the weight of destiny. The wind rustled through the reeds, a silent witness to the momentous decision. Your closest lieutenants stood by, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and unwavering loyalty, awaiting your command. You paused, a moment of profound introspection, contemplating the irreversible consequences of your actions. To cross was to condemn Rome to civil war, to pit Roman against Roman, a horrific prospect. But to retreat was to accept political oblivion, to surrender your life's work to your enemies. Finally, with a deep breath, you uttered the immortal words, Alea iacta est. The die is cast. The words, perhaps spoken softly, yet carrying the force of an earthquake, sealed your fate and the fate of Rome. With a firm nod, you gave the command, and your legions, their heavy marching boots splashing through the shallow waters, began to cross the Rubicon. It was an act of defiance, a leap into the unknown, a point of no return from which there could be no turning back. The very act sent shivers through the Roman world, a clear signal that the Republic, as it had been known, was irrevocably fractured. News of your crossing spread like wildfire across Italy, reaching Rome with astonishing speed. The reaction was one of utter panic and chaos. Pompey, who had boasted of crushing you with ease, was caught completely off guard. He, along with many senators and magistrates, made the desperate decision to abandon Rome, fleeing south towards the port of Brundisium, hoping to regroup and raise an army in the east. Imagine the scenes of confusion in the capital, families scrambling, valuable possessions being hastily packed, the sound of carriage wheels clattering through the streets as the elite fled. leaving the grand city in a state of bewildered abandonment. The Senate, once a bastion of order, was now a hollow shell. You, however, did not hesitate. Your advance into Italy was astonishingly swift, a lightning campaign that caught your enemies completely by surprise. Your legions marched with unparalleled speed and discipline, cities and towns opening their gates to you without resistance or quickly capitulating. This wasn't a brutal invasion, it was a rapid, strategic advance, showcasing your mastery of logistics and your deep understanding of Italian terrain. You sought to project an image of clemency, not vengeance, hoping to win over the populace rather than alienate them. Your goal was not to destroy Rome, but to claim it, to reshape it. The very air in Rome during this turmoil must have been thick with uncertainty and fear, yet also a strange sense of anticipation. The traditional political structures had collapsed overnight, leaving a vacuum. For the common people, there was a mixture of dread at the prospect of civil war, and perhaps a glimmer of hope that your arrival might bring an end to the long years of aristocratic misrule and corruption. They remembered your generous games, your land reforms, your championing of their cause. You, the man who had defied the Senate, now marched on Rome, not as a barbarian conqueror, but as a Roman general, bringing an army into the Sacred Heart of Italy. This was no longer just a political dispute. It was a profound clash of ideologies, a struggle for the very soul of the Roman world. The Republic, designed for a city-state, was buckling under the weight of an expanding empire and the ambitions of powerful individuals. Your crossing of the Rubicon was not merely an act of war. It was a symbolic severing of the old order, a desperate gamble that, if successful, would irrevocably change the course of history, paving the way for a new form of governance, one perhaps more centralized, more efficient, but certainly more autocratic. As your legions continued their inexorable march, the vastness of the task ahead became clear. You were now pitted against the combined might of Pompey's loyalists and the vast resources of the eastern provinces. The civil war had truly begun, a conflict that would rage across the entire Roman world, from the Iberian Peninsula to the distant shores of Egypt. But for now, the immediate prize was Italy, and with each rapid step you were drawing closer to asserting your dominance over the heart of the Republic, leaving behind the intricate dance of diplomacy for the decisive, unforgiving theater of war. The die was indeed cast, and the future, though uncertain, was now firmly in your hands to forge. After your swift and decisive advance through Italy, seizing control of the heart of the Republic, Pompey and his senatorial allies had fled across the Adriatic Sea to Greece. There they planned to regroup, to gather the vast resources of the eastern provinces, and to raise an army formidable enough to challenge your authority. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine the very future of Rome. But you, ever the strategist, knew that you could not allow a major Pompeian force to remain unchecked in the west. Spain, or Hispania as it was known, was a stronghold of Pompey's veterans, a loyal base of support with experienced legions. To leave them unaddressed would be to leave a dagger pointed at the back of Italy while you pursued Pompey in the east. So, with characteristic speed, you turned your attention westward. Imagine the long, disciplined marches across vast landscapes through the rugged beauty of the Iberian Peninsula. These were not battles of brute force, but often intricate maneuvers, sieges, and psychological warfare designed to wear down your opponents. You employed clever tactics, such as cutting off supplies and outmaneuvering enemy positions, rather than engaging in bloody, pitched battles wherever possible. You understood that these were Roman citizens, albeit misled ones, and a victory secured through minimal bloodshed was always preferable. The sun would beat down on your legions, the dust of the Spanish roads rising with every measured step, but your resolve remained unshaken. Within a few months, through a series of brilliant campaigns and strategic surrenders, Hispania was secured, and its Pompeian legions were either defeated or won over to your cause. The west was now firmly under your control, and you could finally turn your full attention to Pompey. The great confrontation was inevitable. You sailed your legions across the Adriatic, a daring winter crossing that once again caught your adversaries by surprise. The two largest armies the Roman world had ever seen were about to meet on the plains of Thessaly in Greece. Pompey, relying on his vast numbers and strong cavalry, believed he held the advantage. You, however, had the unwavering loyalty of your battle-hardened veterans and an unshakable belief in your own tactical genius. The decisive clash came on August 9th, 48 BCE at the Battle of Pharsalus. Picture the vast open fields, the two Roman armies arrayed against each other, the air thick with tension, not just of an impending battle, but of a brother fighting brother. The sun glinted off thousands of helmets and shields, a silent testament to the tragedy unfolding. Pompey's forces heavily outnumbered yours, particularly in cavalry, but your legions, though fewer, were seasoned, disciplined, and utterly devoted. You deployed a cunning strategy, a hidden fourth line of infantry, held in reserve, to counter Pompey's superior cavalry. It was a gamble, a brilliant stroke of tactical foresight. As Pompey's cavalry charged, confident of victory, they were met by your unexpected reserve. Their formation broken, the ensuing rout was swift and complete. The Battle of Pharsalus was a crushing defeat for Pompey and a monumental victory for you. It was a testament to the power of strategic thinking and the indomitable spirit of your legions. Pompey, his grand army shattered, fled for his life. He made his way to Egypt, seeking refuge with young King Ptolemy the Thinktate, hoping for support from the powerful pharaoh. But the political waters of Egypt were even more treacherous than those of Rome. The advisors of Ptolemy, fearing your inevitable pursuit and hoping to curry favor with the victor, made a cold, brutal calculation. As Pompey stepped onto the shores of Egypt, he was betrayed and assassinated, beheaded by a former Roman officer in Ptolemy's service. The news reached you shortly after your own arrival in Egypt, as you pursued Pompey, expecting to finally confront your rival. Imagine the scene, a general victorious but weary, arriving in a foreign land, only to be presented with the severed head of his former son-in-law, his great rival. It was a chilling moment, a stark reminder of the brutal realities of power and ambition. You did not rejoice. Instead, you reportedly turned away in disgust, horrified by the treachery, angered that a Roman general, no matter how great an adversary, should meet such an ignoble end at the hands of foreigners. It was a moment of profound, unsettling finality, a testament to the fact that even in victory there is often a deep, quiet sadness. The most formidable obstacle to your absolute power had been removed, but at a terrible human cost. With Pompey gone, you found yourself unexpectedly drawn into the intricate and ancient dynastic dispute of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt. Young Ptolemy the 13th was locked in a bitter power struggle with his older sister, the ambitious and captivating Cleopatra the 7th. Egypt, with its immense wealth, its fertile lands, and its strategic position, was too important to Rome to be left to chaos. You intervened, taking up residence in the royal palace in Alexandria, a city of unparalleled splendor and learning, a beacon of Greek culture in the East. Your presence in Alexandria quickly escalated the local conflict into what became known as the Alexandrian War. Ptolemy's advisors, resentful of your intervention and fearing Cleopatra's influence, incited the Alexandrian populace against you. You and your small contingent of Roman soldiers found yourselves besieged in the royal quarter, surrounded by a hostile city and the king's army. It was a perilous situation, a stark contrast to the open fields of Gaul. Imagine the close quarters fighting in the narrow streets, the constant threat, the strategic necessity of defending every inch of ground. It was during this conflict, perhaps inadvertently, that a fire spread to the great library of Alexandria, a tragedy that saw countless irreplaceable scrolls and ancient knowledge vanish into smoke. A profound loss, a quiet testament to the collateral damage of human conflict, even when fought for grander purposes. Through cunning and resourcefulness, and eventually reinforced by fresh legions, you ultimately prevailed. Ptolemy the 13th was defeated, and Cleopatra, with your decisive support, was restored to her throne as Queen of Egypt. This was not merely a political alliance, it quickly blossomed into a profound personal relationship. Cleopatra, a woman of extraordinary intellect, charm, and ambition, became your lover, and later, the mother of your son, Caesarion. Your time in Egypt was a period of both intense military challenge and unexpected respite, a chance to immerse yourself in the exotic splendor of the East, far from the harsh political realities of Rome. You lingered for months, perhaps finding a sense of peace and affection that had been elusive amidst the relentless ambition and civil strife. But Rome, and your destiny, still beckoned. While Egypt offered a powerful, strategic alliance and a momentary personal haven, your true purpose lay in the West. With Egypt secured under Cleopatra's grateful rule and the eastern provinces now largely pacified, you began to prepare for your return. The civil war was not yet entirely over. Pockets of Pompeian resistance remained, particularly in Africa and once again in Hispania. Your journey home would be punctuated by these final campaigns, ensuring that your victory was complete, undisputed, and that Rome would finally acknowledge you as its sole and supreme master. The path ahead was clear: to return, to consolidate power, and to embark on the grand, ambitious task of reshaping the entire Roman world according to your vision. After the tumultuous years of civil war, after the dust of Pharsalus had settled and the intrigues of Egypt were behind you, you returned to Rome, not just as a triumphant general, but as its undisputed master. The Republic, shattered by decades of internal strife and civil conflict, lay prostrate before you. Your return was a moment of profound significance, a clear signal that the old order was gone, and a new era, shaped by your singular will, was about to begin. Imagine your entry into the Eternal City. It wasn't the frantic flight of Pompey, nor the chaotic abandonment by the Senate. Instead, it was the measured, confident procession of a victorious commander, acclaimed by the people, feared by your former enemies. The cheers of the crowds, the fluttering of banners, the scent of incense, and the solemn trumpets announcing your arrival filled the air. You had brought peace, albeit through conquest, and the exhausted populace yearned for stability. You were soon appointed dictator, a position of absolute authority, initially for a short term, then for 10 years, and finally for life. This was not the dictatorship of old, a temporary measure for crisis, but a new unprecedented concentration of power, a testament to your unyielding ambition and Rome's desperate need for firm leadership. You now held the reins of the entire Roman world, your word becoming law, your vision guiding its future. With this immense power, you embarked on a breathtaking series of reforms, a monumental undertaking designed to reshape Roman society from its foundations. These weren't mere administrative tweaks. They were sweeping, transformative changes that touched every aspect of daily life and laid the groundwork for the Roman Empire that would follow. Perhaps one of your most enduring legacies, one that subtly influences our lives even today, was the reform of the Roman calendar. The old calendar, a confusing and often manipulated system, was a mess, hopelessly out of sync with the seasons. You, with the help of Greek astronomers, introduced the Julian calendar, a remarkably accurate solar calendar with 365 days and an extra day every 4 years, the leap year. Imagine the careful calculations, the detailed discussions under the stars, the effort to bring order to the very passage of time. This reform brought clarity and predictability to Roman life, a silent gift of consistency to farmers, merchants, and administrators alike. You also addressed the vexing issue of Roman citizenship. You granted full citizenship to many inhabitants of Cisalpine Gaul, the region of northern Italy, and extended it to various communities in Hispania and Gaul. This wasn't just an act of generosity, it was a pragmatic strategy to integrate these provinces more deeply into the Roman state, fostering loyalty and expanding the pool of potential soldiers and taxpayers. Picture the joy and relief of these newly enfranchised citizens, now fully part of the grand Roman project, able to participate in its governance and enjoy its protections. The city of Rome itself became a canvas for your ambition. You initiated vast public works projects, aiming to beautify the capital and provide employment for the thousands of returning veterans and the urban poor. The Forum Iulium, with its magnificent Temple of Venus Genetrix, was one such project. A new public space designed to rival the old Roman Forum. Imagine the sounds of construction echoing through the city, the chisels of stonemasons, the shouts of laborers, the creak of cranes lifting massive marble blocks. New roads were planned, drainage systems improved, and grand public buildings began to rise, transforming the ancient city into a true imperial capital. These projects were not just about aesthetics, they were about civic pride, economic stimulus, and a tangible demonstration of your commitment to Rome's renewal. Debt, a perennial problem for many Romans, was another area you tackled with bold reforms. You implemented measures to ease the burden on debtors, including a partial cancellation of debts and regulations on interest rates. This brought much-needed relief to ordinary citizens struggling under the weight of financial hardship, preventing widespread social unrest and fostering a sense of fairness. You understood that a stable society required a measure of economic justice, even if it meant challenging the interests of the wealthy elite. Your vision for a new Rome was clear: a more centralized, efficient, and orderly state, one less prone to the chaotic infighting that had plagued the late Republic. You sought to reduce the power of the corrupt oligarchs in the Senate and to govern through a more direct, benevolent autocracy. This wasn't just about personal power, though. That was undeniable. It was about bringing stability and good governance to an empire that had grown too large and too complex for its traditional republican institutions. The consolidation of your personal power was reflected in the myriad honors bestowed upon you. You were granted the title Pater Patriae, Father of the Fatherland, a profound recognition of your role as the savior and reorganizer of Rome. Your image appeared on coins, your statues graced public spaces, and sacred honors were decreed in your name. You were no longer just a general or a consul. You were a living legend, almost a divine figure, the most powerful man in the entire known world. The daily life of such a man, of you, the dictator of Rome, was a relentless cycle of work. Your domus was no longer a private sanctuary, but a bustling hub of activity, filled with petitioners, advisors, and officials from every corner of the empire. You would rise early, perhaps before dawn, to review dispatches, dictate letters, and plan new legislation. Your meals, though no doubt sumptuous, were often working affairs. Filled with discussions of state business, you oversaw a vast administrative machinery, from the grain supply of Rome to the governance of distant provinces. The weight of the entire Roman world rested on your shoulders, a constant demanding presence. The quiet moments, perhaps a brief walk in your gardens or a few stolen minutes with a scroll, must have been precious, rare respites from the unceasing demands of power. Reflect on the nature of this absolute power. On one hand, it allowed you to enact sweeping reforms, to bring order and stability, to build and innovate on a grand scale. You had the vision and the authority to tackle long-standing problems that had paralyzed the Republic. On the other hand, such concentrated power inherently carried dangers. It bypassed traditional checks and balances, it curtailed dissent, and it relied entirely on the wisdom and benevolence of a single individual. Your actions, driven by a genuine desire for reform and a powerful personal ambition, were reshaping Rome into something new, something that would eventually become an empire. The Republic was dying, and from its ashes, under your guiding hand, a new entity was slowly, inexorably rising, destined to dominate the Mediterranean world for centuries. You were its architect, its foundation, and its most formidable force, and the echoes of your influence would resonate for all time. Your power, once a source of stability for Rome, had, for many, become a source of profound unease. The sweeping reforms you enacted while bringing order and efficiency fundamentally challenged the deeply ingrained traditions of the Republic. For centuries, power had been shared, debated, and checked by various magistracies and the Venerable Senate. Now, you, a single man, held absolute authority, dictator for life. This unprecedented concentration of power, no matter how benevolently wielded, sparked a growing fear among many senators. The fear of tyranny, the specter of a king returning to Rome. Imagine the hushed conversations in the marble corridors of the Senate, the anxious glances exchanged during public gatherings. The very men who had once flattered you, who had benefited from your generosity, now began to whisper. They saw the honors bestowed upon you, the statues, the coins bearing your likeness, and they saw not a savior, but a threat to the Republic itself. Their fear was not necessarily that you were a cruel tyrant, but that the system itself was being dismantled, that the foundations of Roman liberty were crumbling under the weight of your singular will. Among these fearful and resentful voices, a conspiracy began to take root, a chilling plot conceived in the shadows of Rome's grand public spaces. The leaders of this dark enterprise were men you knew, men you trusted, men whose lives you had spared after the Civil War. Marcus Junius Brutus, a man whose family claimed descent from the very founder of the Republic and its spirit of liberty, was among them. You had favored Brutus, promoted him, even considered him a son. Yet Brutus, tormented by a sense of duty to his ancestors and the ideals of the Republic, came to believe that only your removal could save Rome from itself. Alongside him stood Gaius Cassius Longinus, a seasoned general and an astute politician, whose animosity towards you was more personal, fueled by a mixture of ambition and resentment. Picture the clandestine meetings, the furtive glances, the whispers exchanged under the cloak of night. The conspirators, a diverse group of about 60 senators, bound by a shared fear for the Republic's future, or perhaps their own. They debated, they planned, they solidified their resolve, all while maintaining an outward semblance of loyalty. The atmosphere in Rome during these final weeks was thick with a subtle yet pervasive tension, like the calm before a great storm. Omens were reported, strange dreams, unusual portents in the skies, though you, ever the rationalist, might have dismissed them as mere superstition. Yet the air itself seemed to hum with an unspoken unease, a sense that something monumental was about to unfold. As the Ides of March approached March 15th, 44 BCE, the day of your scheduled Senate meeting at the Theater of Pompey, the threads of fate drew tighter. Your wife, Calpurnia, was troubled by vivid nightmares and implored you not to attend. Others, too, voiced warnings, sensing the danger that lurked beneath the surface of Rome's political life. But you, confident in your power, in your reforms, and perhaps in your own invincibility, chose to dismiss these fears. You had faced countless battles, navigated endless political labyrinths. Why should you fear a gathering of senators? You had pardoned your enemies, shown them clemency. Surely they would not betray your trust. Imagine the quiet procession of your litter through the Roman streets that morning. The sounds of daily life, the vendors calling out, the distant chatter, seemed to fade into the background. You arrived at the Theatre of Pompey, a grand structure of marble and stone, designed for public assemblies. You were greeted by the familiar faces of your fellow senators, men you had campaigned with, governed with, perhaps even shared meals with. They rose to greet you as you entered the Curia, a gesture of respect, or so it seemed. As you took your seat, the conspirators began to gather around you, ostensibly to present a petition. The moment had arrived. The air, once filled with polite murmurs, now grew heavy with unspoken intent. One senator, Tullius Cimber, approached you first, clutching his petition, ostensibly asking for his exiled brother's return. As you began to dismiss his pleas, signaling that the meeting should proceed, he seized your toga, pulling it down from your neck. This was the signal. The sudden, shocking movement was followed by a flash of bronze, a glint of steel. The first blow, perhaps aimed at your neck, was clumsy. The scene was not one of heroic combat, but of frantic, desperate betrayal. You would have looked around, seeing the faces of men you knew, men you had trusted, now contorted with a terrible resolve. Each thrust, each silent, desperate lunge, was a shattering blow not just to your body, but to your very belief in Roman loyalty. The atmosphere was one of profound shock and horrifying inevitability. The most profound wound, however, was perhaps not physical. When you saw Brutus among them, his dagger raised, the legendary words, "Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus?" are said to have escaped your lips. Whether they were spoken aloud or merely thought, they encapsulated the ultimate depth of the betrayal. The man you had treated as a son, the man who embodied the Republican ideal, was now participating in your downfall. It was a moment that transcended politics, touching upon the very essence of human trust and deceit. You made no further resistance, pulling your toga over your head, accepting your fate. The immediate aftermath was one of stunned silence, followed by utter chaos. The senators, some conspirators, some merely witnesses, fled in terror, scattering through the streets of Rome, their hands stained with blood, their minds reeling from the enormity of what had transpired. The body of the most powerful man in Rome lay lifeless on the Senate floor, at the foot of a statue of Pompey, your old rival. The void you left was immense, a gaping chasm in the heart of the Roman world. The conspirators, believing they had saved the Republic, would soon discover that their act had merely unleashed a new wave of civil war, plunging Rome into further turmoil and ultimately paving the way for the very thing they had tried to prevent, the end of the Republic and the rise of an emperor. Your life, a testament to ambition and power, had ended in a tragic tableau of betrayal, forever etching your name into the fabric of history, not just as a conqueror, but as the victim of the Ides of March. The stage was set for a new struggle, a battle not for reform, but for your legacy. The immediate aftermath of the Ides of March was not the return to a pristine republic that the conspirators had envisioned. Instead, your assassination plunged Rome into a new, even more turbulent period of uncertainty and civil strife. The Senate House, once the beating heart of Roman governance, now stood as a silent, blood-stained testament to an act of profound betrayal. The very air in Rome, thick with the scent of fear and shock, vibrated with questions. What now? Who would lead? Would the Republic truly be restored, or had your death merely ignited a greater fire? Imagine the chaos that erupted in the hours and days following that fateful morning. The conspirators, initially hailed by some as liberators, quickly found themselves isolated. They had a plan to kill you, but no coherent plan for the vacuum your death created. The populace, swayed by the powerful oratory of Mark Antony, your loyal lieutenant, and the raw emotion stirred by your public will, which revealed your immense generosity to the common people, turned against the assassins. The dream of a restored republic began to crumble almost immediately, replaced by a desperate struggle for power among your heirs and former allies. From this void, a new figure would emerge, one who carried your name and ultimately your legacy, your adopted son, Gaius Octavius, whom you had named as your primary heir. He was a young, seemingly inexperienced man, but possessed a cunning political mind and a ruthless determination that would eventually lead him to become Augustus, Rome's first emperor. Your death, far from saving the Republic, served as the final irreversible catalyst for its transformation into an empire, a form of governance that would ironically fulfill many aspects of your own vision for a more centralized and stable Rome. Your impact on Roman history, dear listener, was nothing short of seismic. You were not merely a participant in its unfolding. You were a driving force, a sculptor of its destiny. The transition from republic to empire, a process that had been brewing for decades, was irrevocably accelerated by your actions and ultimately by your demise. The civil wars that followed your death eventually led to the establishment of a single, all-powerful ruler, bringing an end to the tumultuous age of competing aristocrats and ushering in an era of Pax Romana, the Roman peace. Your genius in military strategy continues to resonate through the centuries, a testament to your innovative tactics and your deep understanding of human psychology on the battlefield. You didn't just command legions, you inspired an almost fanatical devotion among your soldiers, forging them into an unbreakable force. The swiftness of your marches, the ingenuity of your siege works, the clarity of your battle plans, these became the stuff of legend, studied by commanders for generations. Even today, military academies teach the campaigns of Caesar, highlighting your adaptability, your courage, and your unwavering resolve in the face of overwhelming odds. In the realm of politics, your reforms, initially controversial and met with fierce resistance, left an indelible mark. The Julian calendar, that gift of chronological order, still shapes our very concept of time. Your extension of Roman citizenship, your ambitious public works, your attempts at debt relief, these were not just temporary measures, but blueprints for a more inclusive and prosperous Roman state. You envisioned a Rome where merit, not just birthright, played a greater role. A Rome united under a strong central authority, capable of governing a vast and diverse empire. Culturally, your influence endured in profound ways. Your own writings, the commentaries on the Gallic War and the Civil War, are not just historical accounts, but masterpieces of Latin prose, celebrated for their clarity and directness. They offered a unique, first-hand insight into the mind of a conqueror, shaping how future generations would perceive both you and the momentous events you set in motion. And your very name, Caesar, transcended its original meaning, becoming a title of immense power adopted by subsequent Roman emperors and, in various forms, by rulers across Europe, from the Russian Tsar to the German Kaiser, a quiet echo of your unparalleled authority. As we bring this journey through your life, Julius Caesar, to a close, let us reflect on its complexities, its triumphs, and its profound tragedies. Your life was a crucible of ambition, a relentless pursuit of power intertwined with a genuine desire for reform. You reshaped a world, built an empire, and left an eternal mark on history. Yet, you also faced betrayal from those closest to you, a poignant reminder of the inherent vulnerabilities, even for the most powerful among us. Consider the themes that wove through your existence: the relentless drive to succeed, the heavy burden of leadership, the fleeting nature of alliances, and the unpredictable hand of fate. Your story is a testament to the human condition in its grandest, most ambitious, and most fragile forms. It reminds us that even monumental figures are ultimately human, capable of both extraordinary achievements and deep personal suffering. Now, as the echoes of ancient Rome begin to gently fade and the weight of history starts to lift, allow yourself to drift back to the present moment. Feel the comforting stillness around you, the gentle rhythm of your own breath. The grand narrative of Julius Caesar's life, with all its complexities and lessons, has now unfolded. Let the insights, the grand sweep of time, and the vivid imagery settle softly in your mind, like dust motes dancing in the last rays of a Roman sunset. Your journey with Caesar is complete, and the path to restful sleep is now clear and open before you. Rest peacefully, knowing that you have walked with a legend and carried his story in your heart. You are now ready to fully embrace the tranquility that awaits. As the final echoes of ancient Rome gently recede into the vast corridors of history, and the intricate tapestry of Julius Caesar's life comes to its peaceful conclusion, allow yourself to fully embrace this present moment. Feel the soft, comforting stillness that surrounds you, the gentle rhythm of your own breath, a steady anchor in the quiet of the night. You have not merely listened to a story, you have lived it, journeyed through the triumphs and trials of a legendary figure, absorbed the complexities of power, ambition, and fate. This deep immersion, this quiet understanding of a world long past, has prepared your mind and spirit for the profound rest that now awaits you. This unique voyage, through the heart of ancient history and into the depths of your imagination, is designed not just to entertain, but to soothe, to calm, and to guide you towards a truly restorative sleep. It is a testament to the power of narrative, of shared experience, and of the quiet wisdom that historical journeys can impart. We believe that by connecting with these grand tales, by stepping into the sandals of titans, you find a peaceful escape, a gentle detachment from the day's worries, allowing your mind to wander and your body to relax completely. If you have journeyed with us until this very moment, truly absorbing the profound narrative of Julius Caesar, then you are part of a special community, a dedicated group of peaceful seekers, of historical dreamers who find solace and tranquility in these immersive tales. Very few travel the entire path, showing such dedication to their well-being and their quest for knowledge and rest. And because you are one of these rare, persistent souls, we have a special phrase, a quiet declaration for you. I invite you now, gently, to write in the comments below, "I have walked with Caesar, and now I rest." Let these words be your personal affirmation, your quiet acknowledgement of this journey, and a subtle signal to others in our community that you, too, have found this unique path to peace. It is your commitment to profound rest, your declaration of a mind at peace. And if this extended journey through history has brought a sense of calm and insight to your evening, we gently ask that you consider lending your support, not for our own vanity, but because your simple act of liking this video is a powerful gesture. When you click that like button, you are helping this immersive story reach more weary souls, more restless minds, guiding them towards the same tranquility you are now experiencing. Think of your like as a quiet beacon, a subtle light that helps others navigate their way to restful slumber. You become a bridge of peace, an instrument of calm for someone else who might be seeking exactly what you have found tonight. To continue these enriching journeys, to join our growing community of quiet historians and peaceful sleepers, we warmly invite you to subscribe to the channel. Subscribing isn't merely a click, it's a commitment to your own ongoing well-being, a promise to yourself that you will continue to seek out these unique pathways to relaxation and knowledge. By subscribing, you ensure that you don't miss any future expeditions into history, any new opportunities to find peace through narrative. You become an integral part of our collective journey, a fellow traveler on the quiet roads of contemplation and historical discovery. Perhaps there is someone in your life, a dear friend, a family member, a colleague, who could also benefit from this tranquil escape, from the immersive calm that only history can offer. If this journey has brought you peace, consider sharing this video with them. Your act of sharing can be a quiet offering of comfort, a gentle invitation for them to step away from their own day's demands and find a moment of historical reflection, guiding them towards a deeper, more peaceful sleep. Be a silent messenger of calm, a gentle guide for those you care about. Now, as we near the true end of our time together tonight, allow the narrative to fully dissolve into the serene expanse of your inner world. Take a deep, slow breath, feeling your body grow heavy and wonderfully relaxed. Release any lingering thoughts, any small fragment of the day that might still cling to your mind. Imagine a soft, warm blanket of peace settling over you, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Feel each muscle loosen, each tension melt away, as if gently dissolving into the air around you. Let the final peaceful notes of the music guide you deeper into this profound state of rest. There is nothing more to do, nowhere more to be, except here, in this moment of perfect tranquility. This channel is your haven, your quiet corner of the internet where history meets serenity, where every story is a pathway to peace. Return whenever your spirit calls for a journey, whenever your mind seeks a gentle escape. Until then, rest deeply, dream sweetly, and find profound peace in the embrace of a history well-traveled. Good night, dear friend, dear listener. May your sleep be utterly profound and restorative.